You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
I seen guys come out after you guys that tried to do the same thing. They had a Scottish team up there. What the hell were they called?
The Highlanders.
The Highlanders. And I heard they're nice guys, but honestly, really, I mean, the kilts, I mean, anytime you put a kilt on, I think you're going to be compared to Roddy Piper or to the Headbangers with your thing,
right.
Breast thing you had. I mean, that's just what I think when I see it, and I think, oh, kid, you took the wrong fight. Anyway, listen to the Angry Marks Network, and you've got the Undisputed Wrestling Show. This is Cue Ball Carmichael and Killer Kev. Anybody else with us? Dane Paisley with us?
No, nobody else has chimed in tonight. I know Drew is running behind because
that's perfect. I'd rather have the whole time with Thrasher anyway, so that's perfectly fine.
You know,
we talk about the good old days. You make what you can out of it, but let me tell you something. Anytime two guys from the Attitude Era, sit around and talk wrestling and talk shop and talk honestly, you better put that stuff on the air, son, because that's money.
Yeah, it's been good discussion so far.
Especially when you have a star like Thrasher. I mean, come on, man. The Headbangers.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously. But who in the wrestling? Hey, listen, these guys were famous for pulling ribs and doing crazy shit and the independents before they ever got up there on top of the WWE.
It's so funny. I have people today go, oh man, you got to tell me some road stories and everything else. And the first one that I always talk about, you remember Baby Banger?
Yes.
Yes. And how we got him all messed up that one night and shaved his head and everything
else.
Oh
my God. Yeah. Joey Matthews, then Joey Mercury became Baby Banger. Let me tell you something. He rode all the way back to Northern Virginia with me, and all I could do in Cicero, he sat in the back with an effed up haircut, and I'm telling him, I'm like, first thing I said is, your mother's gonna come over there and she's gonna kick my ass because I'm responsible for you. I'm telling you right now, you better man up and say that you wanted this done. And so the whole way home, I look in the rearview mirror and I crack up. I'm not kidding you. My cheeks hurt so bad by the time I got to Northern Virginia, I couldn't wait to get the kid out of the car because it was the way you guys shaved his head. It's such an odd pattern. You look at it, it's like, oh my God, it's like, and that's the best, that's how you break a young boy in right there, man, back in the day, is you get him hammered.
Oh.
And didn't you shave off one of his eyebrows?
One eyebrow. Eyebrow.
And I told him, I said,
one eyebrow.
Yeah, I said, here's the decision, kid. He goes, what? I go, do you shave the other one on and pencil them both on, or do you just leave that one there and pencil one on?
That's exactly why we've always done that. You only shave one eyebrow because now you're in a dilemma.
That was the rib.
What to do. Yeah. So the rib keeps going on until they fucking make up their mind. It was so funny. We had this one guy, Justin St. James or St. Leclerc
Justin St. John.
Justin St. John. He went out to Detroit with us one time. I'm sure you know this story.
I absolutely do because I wrestled him a shit ton of times.
And so we take him out there and everything else. And after he wrestled with us in a tag and he wrestled against us. So we go to this real shitty hotel and, he's all excited. It's his first time on the road and
sure.
I'm so glad you guys brought me. He's like, I'm just so excited. So we're like, all right, well here, take this. This will calm you down. Of course they were somas. So he takes 2 somas and then you're not supposed to drink alcohol on somas. So we're feeding his face full of alcohol and everything else. Lo and behold, 45 minutes to an hour later, the kid's passed flat out. I mean, you pick up his hand, he's slapping himself in the face and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just say by the time the night was over, he had super glue between his toes with duct tape around it. His butt crack was super glued together with duct tape holding that also. We gave him the old Rocky eyebrow, the big old pencil eyebrow. We had packets from Taco Bell super glued all over him and everything else. And the kid slept all night just like that. He woke up in the morning and all he knew that, holy fuck, I can't move my toes. Because they're super glued together with duct tape. So, of course, we're taking pictures and everything else. And then the kid's waddling into the bathroom and then he sees his face. And of course, we didn't use regular, wash off markers or anything else. We used the old fashioned Sharpies that fucking didn't come off to save your life. So he looks in the mirror, he's going, "You sons of a bitches!" Oh my, and freaks the fuck out.
Oh, he could get fired up and freaked out pretty easy too.
Pretty easy. So then we're driving back to New Jersey, and he's still having to wear off the whole alcohol, soma state and everything. So he's falling asleep nodding off and everything else. Every time he would nod off, we would light a firecracker and throw it in the back seat.
Oh my God.
And it would explode and just go all over the place. And then between those, I wrote, "I love Dick" on his forehead. So we stop at a rest stop on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, I think it was, and we go in. The kid has no idea he has anything written on his forehead. So he's like walking through, he's getting something to eat at Wendy's, he's going to get like snacks and stuff like that to take in the car, and then he says, "Oh shit, I gotta go take a piss." He comes out of the bathroom, madder than hell. What's he gonna do? He's not gonna beat us up for one.
Right.
He's so freaking mad. He's like, "You motherfucker." Oh, he wouldn't talk to us for the rest of the way home in the trip, which made it a pretty good trip.
Right.
So, yeah, that was one of our better ones.
That's a great rib. Yeah, I ended up working with that kid. Scotty McKeever would book him in West Virginia in 94, 95, and he booked Roger and Frank and me and a couple other guys, and that was a fun thing. Listen, this guy was a genius. I thought he was an idiot, right? But I mean, he was a good worker, but I thought he was an idiot mentally. But here's what he did. He booked 6 people on the entire show. What would happen is they'd have a heel and a baby and then they'd have sort of a baby heel again. And what would happen is they'd have like a baby heel match or something, or a tweener match. What would happen is the big baby face would work right before intermission, and at the end the heel would beat him up and the other heels would come in and the face would come in. It was kind of a schmoz, and what it would do is he would have the announcer get on the mic and say, "Though the promoter has canceled the other matches on the second half of the show, instead it's going to be a 6-man tag single elimination match." And so the same 6 guys would go back out and work for an hour and 15 minutes, against each other in single elimination. And but I worked up there for a year and I got a lot better. I got a lot better once I went to Baltimore too. But, it was just, it was one of those things where it was just crazy. And I look back and I say, that guy saved a ton of money on talent. He was pretty smart. But that Demensky kid would work up there, and so would Paul Adams. Do you remember him?
I remember Paul, yeah.
Yeah, he's been in Tennessee for years, and he's in and out of the wrestling business. I think he's back now. He helped build that Saw place down there, Southern All-Star Wrestling, the NWA one that got a lot of press for a while.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he helped build the whole thing. He's one of those brainiacs that got in wrestling, but he figured it out. But gosh, it's funny. Do you remember the Mest brothers, Mark and Troy Mest?
Yes.
I hadn't seen those guys in 16 years, and not last week and the weekend before was the 33rd anniversary of my first match. So I had a 3-day camp, and I had some kids come in from Chicago and some kids from Alabama and some people from North Carolina and Virginia. So we had about 12 or 16 people. And so Carino runs 45 minutes from me. So Carino had a show and he had booked Troy and Mark. And so they went down there. They came down Saturday. They stopped and stayed all day at the camp. Then they went and wrestled. And as they left, I said, "Listen, we're going to have some moonshine tonight and some beers." And they're like, "Okay, can you get me a gallon of moonshine?" I go, "Yeah, I can." So they come back and he picks up his gallon of moonshine. We drink half of the gallon I had, plus the whole gallon they had, plus about 100 beers between about 12 people. And yeah, then I brought 9 wrestlers back to my house. I don't think my wife was happy.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
9 drunk
wrestlers.
So I remember, it's funny. You remember Gino Caruso, right?
Yes.
I had a friend who had a show in New York about a year ago, And at the last minute, the guy that was going to rent him the ring and the license pulled out. Now, that was Dale Gagne out of Minnesota and illustrious Johnny Stewart out of Chicago, and they're friends of mine. So they were stuck, so I made a phone call to Gino. And Gino said, I got a show that night in Long Island. I can't do it. And it was like a 12 o'clock show at a baseball field. And so then he called me back and he said, I'm going to do it. And then he sent me this big email, and I forgot about this. And this is how the difference between the boys today and the boys from our era. You know, he said, he sent me this email. He said, I don't know if you remember, but in 1995, me, Little Guido, and the Grizzly Bear were traveling, and we didn't have anywhere to stay. And you were at your sister's house, and you said, you know what? Come here, and we'll have a party. And we got there, and Tom Brandy was there, and Corporal Punishment was there, and a couple other people. And those guys came, and I barbecued at like midnight and fed them. And then I gave him a place to crash. And you know how it was back in the day. Sometimes you were traveling with change in your pocket. I mean, it wasn't easy.
Absolutely.
And he told me, he goes, we didn't have any money. We didn't have any place to stay, and we didn't have anything to eat, and he gave it to me. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure your friend gets a ring and a license for no charge. So I was like, wow. I said, you got to charge him. The guy's got money. Pay
it forward.
It's some great times, man, at MEWF. I remember one night you guys worked the first MCW show at the Patuxent Arena Thursday night. There was like 1,700 people. You guys worked the Rock and Roll Express because that's when they had the NWA titles at WWE. They were defending them, and you guys wrestled there. I mean, talk about a main event. You got the Headbangers from WWE. You got the Rock and Roll Express holding the NWA titles, and you got these guys in the main event on an indie show on a Thursday night, drawing 1,700 plus paid. That was crazy.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember I worked a tag match with that kid RJ when he was real green. It was him and Bundy against me and the guy that was 500 pounds that moved like a cat, Mad Dog O'Malley.
Mad Dog, yeah.
Remember that guy? He lost like 350. He's lost like 350 pounds. It's unbelievable.
Oh my God, really?
He's a friend of mine under his real name on Facebook. The only problem is I can't remember his real name. He's Mad Dog.
Not Mad Dog anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Not Mad Dog anymore. He's like a puppy.
It's like I got an email from John Lucadato. I said, who's this? And I looked, and it was Dino Divine, my old tag team partner up there. I'm like, geez,
that's funny.
I don't know guys by their real. And that's what happens now. A guy, I don't know if it happens to you, but a guy will start messaging me, and I'm like, he knows a lot about me. And I'm talking to him, and I'm like, dude, what was your work name? And he'll tell me, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. I'm sitting here thinking, who's this Mark that knows all this shit about me? You know, and you look at the picture, and most of the guys have ballooned up 300 pounds or something, or lost 300 pounds. There's nobody that looks the same except for, well, I look the same, but my head's been shaved for 15 years, and you guys always look the same. But I mean, a lot of the guys change so much that you look at them and you don't recognize them. You got to have them, and they're under their shoot name, and you just have no clue. And then they tell you, and you're like, holy shit. You know?
It's so funny because me and Chaz do a lot of the conventions and stuff like that, the autograph signing and, you know, the Legends of the Ring and everything else. And you know, we'll spend half the day just walking around and looking at everybody and going, oh my, oh shit.
I know.
The way some of the guys have changed. Oh yeah. Throughout the years. Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Unbelievable.
And you know, it's like you saw him, you feel like you didn't see him that long ago, and you look at him, and, you know, it's kind of sad because sometimes they're sort of decrepit, and you're like, you feel bad, you know? And it's damn, and you don't want to say anything, you know? And the worst thing is when you see one of them, and you start talking to them, and you don't remember who they are because they've changed so much. And once you find out who they are, you're almost like, holy shit. You know,
right? You look down on the table and you see what their name tag is, and you go, "Oh my God, that's."
I know. You're like, wow.
That's Ahmed Johnson. Holy shit!
Yeah, that's he went down 50 miles of hard road, and apparently there were some buffets on the way.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's crazy. It's crazy. Hey, that guy that runs those legend conventions, make sure you pass along my name because I haven't got a call from him.
Oh no.
I think at least I should be hired to carry the Headbangers bags. Then we can have some fun
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Right.
Listen, our caveat is we got to have our bag boy Q-Ball Carmichael flown in here so we can have some fun. Oh man, but we're all old and married. So what are we gonna do?
Old and married with lots of kids.
You always had lots of kids.
Well, I have my two oldest daughters. My one oldest daughter is 23. She'll be 24. No, she'll be 23 in next month, the 26th of April. And then my other one just turned 20. They were with me when we had our run up in WWF. And then now I have two more. One's going to be 13, and then I have one that's 9. And they're all fucking girls, Q. They're all girls.
I'm going to tell you what my mom told me. When I
oh
first,
my God, I'm sure mine said the same thing.
She said the world is round and karma's a bitch. And I'm like, oh my God. I have,
and now I know what she's talking about.
I know, right? It's like you got to worry about every guy out there. It's like, geez, talk about torture me. Why couldn't I have boys? Then I got to worry about one dick. Now I got to worry about all of them.
Well, it's funny too because Chaz, what did he do? He had a boy and stopped.
Of course he did.
That's what he did.
Of course
he had a boy. He has one kid, and that's it.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you only get this kind of action and talk when you're listening to the Angry Marks Network, and of course you're listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show. And tonight we got none other than a friend of mine going back 20 plus years. We got Headbanger Thrasher. Where is Headbanger Chad, by the way? Or Mosh, I'm sorry. Where's Mosh?
He's actually like 15 minutes down the street from my house right now. When we left when I left and then he left later, he moved down to Florida. I stayed up in North Jersey or New Jersey and stuff like that. So we kind of like fell apart and everything else. We didn't talk for years. And then his wife called me up for his 40th birthday party. So me and my wife and the kids and everything, we were coming down to Florida to go to Disney for a vacation. So here he was only 2 hours away. So I took one night and I came down here for his party and everything else. Q, I fell in love with Florida that day, that whole trip. We went back up. It was the end of April. We went back up. We left Maryland. It was, we were over near like, Chesapeake Beach and everything else. We left there on Father's Day and never came back.
Wow.
I packed up the whole family, no job. I quit my job up there because I was a supervisor for a pizza chain, and I ballooned up to 315 pounds after I got out of the WWF. I swear to God.
Shut up. Oh my, wow.
And I came down here and I saw Chaz and I was like, you know what? I really don't want to go out this way.
Right.
So I came down here, I got back in shape and we started doing some shows and everything else. And, you know, now what do? Is I'm a general manager for a health club. So I'm in the gym every single day.
I saw that. I saw that on your page.
Yeah. It worked out for the best, you know, living down here. Now I go to Disney almost every fucking weekend.
That's crazy, man. Are you anywhere close? Are you anywhere close to Nicky Tarantino?
It's funny. I talked to him. Is he's in Port St. Lucie, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to him about trying to get him down into West Palm to do some shows and everything else, and he said he's just not ready to do any shows yet. So yeah, I talked to Nicky on Facebook and stuff like that. Absolutely. You know, back from the heyday.
Yeah, you know, I love Nick. Nick, I told him, I said, you always had a little chip on your shoulder thinking you should have been signed and had a contract, but you know what? Not for nothing. But we know a lot of that was just, you know, I don't want to say luck because everybody back then was in shape. Everybody worked out. Everybody was on the gas. We did everything we could do to get a look when we were there and stuff. And I said, Nick, some guys just don't make it no matter how good they are. It doesn't matter. It's not, you can't have a chip on your shoulder for the business or the boys or anything like that because sometimes it's the luck of the draw.
It's being at the right place at the right time and having the right people look that way. I mean, there's no way we would have been able to be where we were if it wasn't for Cornette pushing us into those part-time contracts. And we wouldn't have made it to the full-time contracts if Shane McMahon wasn't watching us one day on the monitor up at TV and went, holy shit, these guys love Marilyn Manson. What was in Shane's office? A biography of Marilyn Manson. He was a heavy rocker. He was into that kind of music and stuff like that. So, I mean, it absolutely, the right place, the right time with the right people looking at you. Absolutely, 100%.
And all the boys that were up there that it didn't spoil them and it didn't change them. All those boys have exactly that same mentality and attitude, whether it's Matt, whether it's Jeff, whether it's you guys, it doesn't matter whether it was Tom, it doesn't matter who it is. They're like, hey, I was at the right place at the right time, the right guy saw me. The rest is history.
Absolutely. So,
it's, that's why, Nick is in a good place now mentally. He just needs to, I think, get there physically. But, he's never been more grounded and stuff. And I got to travel a little bit with Nick back in the day. So he wanted to take some shows in Western PA and I was booked pretty good with Steel City and United States Championship Wrestling. So I took him over there a few weekends and we got to travel a little bit together and it was crazy. Of course, we got one crazy weekend where we got this huge suite and we had to book a room with John Kronos. Remember him?
Yes.
That motherfucker.
From the Eliminator.
Yes. God rest his soul. What a great athlete for a guy 275 pounds. I mean, and he was a nice dude, but I don't know what he was doing, if anything. Maybe it was his natural personality, but he didn't sleep. And all he wanted to do is talk. To the point where you get to a point where at the end of the night, the boys want to shut the fuck up and go to sleep. At
some point.
Yeah, not a chance. Like when all the alcohol's gone, you want to get a little bit of sleep.
It's so funny because we were in USWA Memphis with Perry and John when they came in as the Eliminators. Yeah. So I remember them too. Really good. Yes.
Yeah, he was a little wacky, but he was a good guy. And, and hey, I got to bring it down a little bit and we got to talk about our friend Axel Rotten to pay a little tribute to him. And, I told Axel, this is last year, I said, you were hard as fuck on me when I came in there. I mean, when I came into MEWF, Axel had me do 50 different gimmicks, including a Shawn Michaels type of gimmick, had me do the wave to everybody, just crazy gimmicks. And I never said no. I always said, sure, whatever you want to do, man, you're the booker. And he goes, you had a passion for it, but your talent wasn't there yet. So I figured I'd push you hard enough so your talent matched your passion, and then we'd have somebody pretty special. And I was like, wouldn't it have to be that Axel would have to be articulate for a minute and say that? And I'm like, all of a sudden, all that shit went away because he was a freaking genius in psychology. You know that?
That's what I was just going to say. If you sat down there and you talked for 5 minutes with Axel about matches, about history of wrestling or anything else like that, he would blow your mind. He would absolutely blow your mind.
Yeah, I had a lot of conversations because him and I shared the same demons for a lot of years. And, we had a lot of long talks about life and stuff. And we would get together and do shit we shouldn't do together. And, but ultimately we'd end up in long, drawn out philosophical conversations, I give credit to 2 people for making me make the metamorphosis between 1995 and 1998 when I did 154 indie shows and I was booked 5 or 6 times for WWE, and at number 1 was Tom Brady because I got in a program with him and he led me by the hand and showed me how to be a worker. But Axel gave me the psychology that I have today. If I'd have had that psychology when I was 25 and Tom had taught me how to work at 25, I don't know what I could have done in the business, but I think I could have done something really good. And, I just came later in life and, I was able to use it for a long period in the ring and stuff. And, it's nice when you wrestle, Mass Superstar, Demolition Axe, Billy Eadie, and he looks at you after the match and said, that was a match I could do every night, kid. Stuff like that happens. You start realizing that you got it. You figured it out. The light bulb came on. You understand what your job is out there. And, I'm sure you've seen that post I made called, Just a Wrestler,
Yeah.
And, that happened to me in about 2005. I was at a show. When that happened, I realized how many times does this happen, even on the independent scene, where nobody tells you the story? I mean, the mother-in-law of this guy is telling me the story. And then I'm putting together what happens when his kids come over, and I'm thinking, God, the magnitude that little action I did, making their dad the hero of the day and the right guy to be their hero, not me or not some wrestler. How mmany times did we do that by accident? Or how many times did we affect somebody for forever? I was talking to this kid the other day, and he said, you and I were friends back in the AOL days, and I remember him. Before any Facebook or any of that, what was that other thing back in the day? MySpace. Before any of this stuff.
Yeah, MySpace.
Yeah, this kid found me at AOL, and, he's become sort of a wrestling historian. He's never going to be in the business, but I'll tell you what, if you ask him who was NWA champion in 1958, he can tell you. If you ask him who was AWA champion in 1960, he can tell you. So he's become sort of a historian, which is good because, you know what? Eventually, unfortunately, we're going to fall by the wayside. We're either going to get older and not remember, or hopefully we get older. I can deal with not remembering. But, who's going to tell the stories and carry on the legacy? Because I don't think, some people believe it, but I don't know if people know, like between Smoky Mountain days, how big Smoky Mountain was, but also the guys that came out of there that were working the independents at a regular basis. I mean, how strong were those old MEWF shows and the Secret Cove shows? I mean, how many of those guys went on to be stars on TV? I mean, Carino, Joey Mercury, Christian York, you guys. And I'm not taking credit for anybody. I'm just saying that was an average independent show. You had Tom Brandy, Lance Diamond, who came out of there. Guys like that were every week on shows together, all of a sudden climbed the ladder and got to a place of prominence in the business, in a place of remembrance. So I hope you're getting your residual checks when your videos are sold and shit.
Yeah, yeah. And see, and that was the thing with Axel. He was Axel was humble. I mean, Axel, he just loved to do what he did. He loved to sit there and he would talk your ear off about wrestling. I remember when we got them down to USWA when it was Axel and Ian, the Rock Brothers, because we told Lawler was looking for more tag teams. We were down there as the Spiders. Right. And we're like, well, we know Axel and Ian, the Rons, and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. We worked with them in Maryland and whatnot, bring them on down. So he brought them down, and they were living out of a hotel and everything else. We had an apartment, a one-bedroom, shitty-ass apartment. It was like $400, $300 a month. It was in the worst part of town. It had bars on the window, but we didn't care.
Didn't matter.
We found out that, that Axel and Ian were down there, and we're like, hey, listen, why don't you guys come live with us? We drive together and everything else. And you remember how Ian was.